So you should start hearing
I
sound.
don't know yet. I'm still trying.
Amy Valentine.
That two-step verification.
Right?
How are you?
There we go. It's working.
Anyway, that was an interesting radio.
Yes. That's so sweet. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'll call May 9th, 2022 meeting to order. We'll all please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll move on to the Tryon Elementary School Military Purple Star Recognition.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to recognize Principal Kevin Weiss. He's the principal of Tryon Elementary School, and he will introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you for having us today. My name is Kevin Wise. I'm the principal of Tryon. We have here today Miss Mandy Wolf, who is an exceptional children's teacher here at Tryon. Does a fantastic job. She is married to John Wolf, who is a active reservist, I believe. Was deployed to Kuwait in 2019, I believe is the right date. And Miss Wolf saw the need and was found the information about the military school designation and really saw a need for that in Polk County and in Tryon. So she has gone out of her way to bring that designation to our school and our district. And it's something we're very proud of. And I'll let her tell you all about the program.
Thank you. Right here, or is this?
Right there. Wherever you like.
I'll just put my favorites over here. Stand beside Jan.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I was honored when Mr. Green asked if I could speak about this. This is our third year at Tryon Elementary getting this honor, and it is something that I hold dear to my heart. When I was asked to go through with this from our formal principal, I was really excited because my husband was deployed. So I felt that having the military practices set up at our school and helping these students and families when they did come to our school, I thought that was really important. Also recognizing veterans. So all those kinds of things made me really excited about this program. I do want to show a little bit of the the Purple Star Award ceremony from last year, just a couple little excerpts. It's 30 minutes, so definitely not that long. But we're going to start it where Superintendent Truitt just spoke a little about the Purple Star Award. So I think it's like 4 or 5 minutes. If you don't mind playing that, thanks, Steve.
Sorry.
So she just showed on the map, you can see Polk is where we are furthest west. So obviously there's a lot more purple in the eastern part of the state where we have Fort Bragg and, you know, some of those military installations. But I just wanted to go over the requirements really quickly. So each year I have to resubmit the application. There has to be a point of contact at the school, which is myself. There has to be a support contact at central office, which is Ms. Jan Crump, thank you so much. And we have to go through a professional development kind of piece that I've been doing at Tryon. Last year it was virtual. This year I was able to do it in front of the staff. Just last week, we had Purple Up Day as one of the requirements. It was an optional requirement. So we had the whole school painted purple. We encouraged students and staff and teachers to wear purple. This is the shirt that Yeti's made for us. We were able to use some of the money that the teachers paid for the shirts and a donation from an assistant to buy shirts for all of our military connected children. So that was huge for us. We were so thankful for that. A few other requirements are we have a dedicated page on our school website for resources. So if you go to Tryon Elementary, under general information, there's a military family resources page. It lists like Polk County Schools, Polk County Library, the Rec Department, the Veterans Affairs, American Legion. So there are a lot of resources there for parents. There's also a transition checklist for inbound and outbound children. So students that come in our school and leave our school, there's a checklist for helping them with that transition period when they go to other schools. There's a video that we have to orient students. So if you go to our Tryon Elementary page, there's a video that goes through our school. So that was another piece of the requirement. And then just an understanding of interstate compact, which means that we're helping students in that transitional period as far as graduation requirements and other things to help them through this process to make sure they're on track for college and other things after high school. So those are basically the requirements. Like I said, I do that each year, resubmit that. That was the Purple Star ceremony for this last year, actually. This coming school year, it will be virtually on Wednesday, May 11th, which is this Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So it'll be the same kind of presentation where all the schools are awarded, and we can go to that right now. I'll show you where Polk County was awarded. They go through all the counties that have the designation and that were deemed Purple Star. So we can jump to Polk County if that's all right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're there.
We now move on to our second onesie with Tryon Elementary in Polk County Schools. Polk is one of the furthest reached areas, and we're so glad they applied and earned this award again. Their school tour video and their professional development were among the highlights of their application. Thank you, Polk County.
So that's us in the spotlight. But I think that as far as all of this goes, the big picture is honoring our military and our vets. We have some events coming up at Tryon Elementary for Memorial Day. And I just think with the decrease in the COVID numbers that we're going to be able to have the assemblies again, and we're going to be able to have events and activities where we can honor these vets that have sacrificed in so many ways for our freedom. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate it very much.
Chair, on behalf of our school system and the board, I'd like to say thanks to Mandy. I know that's a lot of extra work. And little do you know, you're going to be tapped to spread this word around to the other schools.
Oh, good.
Make sure you can find a counterpart in each one of those places, but it is a lot of work. And it is very important work to make sure that those families and those individuals feel welcome and feel supported. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
All right, folks, next item on the agenda is the approval of April 19th board minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? So do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
A motion, have a second? Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on under instructional, first item here is the AIG plan. Ms. Kimberly Granson.
Mr. Chair, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, here on the stage is Ms. Kimberly Granville. She is our academically and intellectually gifted coordinator here for Polk County Schools. And she's going to give you the highlights of our plan, and we'll obviously be seeking approval for this plan to move forward.
Hello, again, Kimberly Granville. I work at Tryon Elementary, Polk Central, and Sunnyview. I have a counterpart, Kevin Burnett at Saluda, and John Ferran is the middle school ELA teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm going to hopefully show you in a few moments some things that we've been doing for the year, kind of some visuals for the plan that we have. So the state of North Carolina asks that every 3 years there's a revision to the plan for the AIG program. And this is our renewal year, so that's why you have before you the new plan that we're proposing. There weren't a lot of changes to the plan this year. The plan was put into NCCCIP. And they had decided that some of the things that were under one of the 6 standards should be moved to another location so that it's easier for people to read it, that information is not repeated. I went through and changed some of the things that said, like instead of ELL for English language learners, now it says multi-language learners. That's really the basis of it. There weren't a lot of big changes that were made, just part of revisiting the standards and putting it online. So to that, if you would indulge me, if I could show you some pictures of what we have been up to. So one of the things with AIG all day, every day is what we say. If you are academically, intellectually gifted, you need that all day to every day to feed your brain. So if you would, so AIG stands for academically and or intellectually gifted. The process for identification starts in the 4th grade through 8th grade. When a student gets into 9th through 12th, they can decide whether they want to take the honors, AP courses, that type of thing. And kindergarten through 3rd grade is talent development. I like to throw a huge net to see how many people we can get. So the children in kindergarten through 3rd, I have tried to focus on STEM, creative thinking, Bloom's higher order thinking skills such as analyze, evaluate, and create. And boy, do the kids love to create. They're having a great time. Each of the grades at each school has a Google Classroom to help teachers with differentiation, with things that they may be coming into the classroom to do with me, and with early finisher time. So if there's a student that's a high flyer that finishes early, they can go into the Google Classroom and find things that'll challenge their brain. And then the AIG teacher, that position is meant to be a true support to the classroom teacher to help with differentiation for each child. And that includes whether the child has been identified or could potentially be identified. So I love reflection and hearing feedback. And so the past 2 years, I've asked the students what they thought of the program. Did they feel like I was serving them? Did they feel like they were growing? And so this is the feedback from 4th grade this year. So they wish they had more time. They wish AIG was every day. And then some of them were like, we want ELA 2 days, math 2 days, and Fridays are off because Fridays we don't need to do anything. They love the idea of the projects, the autonomy of deciding what product and what project they do. And they like for the lessons to be in the regular classroom or similar to their pullout and fun. The kids, even 5th graders, they love to play and learn. And how do they, it's okay for them to think they're not learning, they're just playing when they're really learning. 5th grade's feedback, same thing, more AIG time. And they actually wish that their AIG class was like their regular classes, like 5th graders that change the class. If they're AIG identified for math, they want a full hour of math every single day and so forth. Again, theirs was more projects. They appreciate the fact that I always go a step ahead so that if they're doing 4th grade math, I share a little 5th grade on top of that. So when they do the next step, it's easier for them. They're kind of getting it. And they also, We tease about my job is to make their brains hurt. So if their brains hurt, I'm doing my job right. So they appreciate the fact that they feel like their brains are getting stronger within the classroom time. So to that point, my theme for the year with the 3 schools that I work with, it was what's an engineer. So the children have learned about what is an engineer, the different types of engineers, the process. There's also a Title I component that I bring in where we have a biography that we read and we compare a biography to a portrait. And then there is a STEM that happens at the end so they can do the connection from the book to the STEM, the hands-on, all that whole idea of it. Okay, so first grade, they love their wiggles. So if they're with me, sometimes we do coding where they have to take, they in groups have to code a dance for their team, and then they rotate and each team has to do the dance and they check to see if their coding was right. Here's the portraits and the biographies. I had the first graders pick a person in the classroom, draw a portrait of them, and then the whole idea was the portrait tells a story the same as a biography. So the kids had to guess who it was before they wrote the name down to see if it was telling the story of the person. And then the PETS program, that's the primary education thinking skills. Oh, there's a typo. Oh, sorry. Skills. Sorry. That is a program that the homeroom teacher can use with kindergarten through 3rd grade, where it teaches more of Bloom's higher order thinking. There's Dudley the detective, where they have to, use deductive reasoning in order to figure out with the clues who stole his badge, that kind of thing. It's fun things. And this is a picture of them. It was attributes of different shapes, and they had to make a pathway where, according to each little circle, it said how many attributes you had to change. So that was fun, having them look at things differently. It's not just the colors, the shapes, different things. And then again, with the STEAM or STEM, here's a symmetry lesson. 2nd grade, I gave them 10 note cards. They had a very limited amount of time. They had to make a bridge, and then they had to see whose bridge would hold the most Unifix cubes as far as looking at the structure, the materials, the strength, that type of thing. And then with the younger groups too, I think it's fun to read a book with them and have them create some type of STEM challenge from it. So here, like at Christmas, we had the gingerbread cowboy. We read the story. They each got a little gingerbread man. And once they made a little horse or a chair for the gingerbread man to stand up straight on, then they got to eat their gingerbread man. 2nd grade, so much fun. They have the beginning of the year, they read about George Washington Carver, and we planted seeds. And at Polk Central, there were little carrots that were coming up out of nowhere from our seeds. So those got dumped somehow. And then George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. In the background are their Ferris wheels that they made. They tested to see. So the whole idea of all these are for them to come up with a product, test it, see what needs to be tweaked, and figure out how to fix it. 2nd grade airplanes, we read the story that comes after Humpty Dumpty after the fall. I won't give the ending away, but a plane has something to do with the end of it. They've all made their own planes, and we're adding weight. Everybody adds the same weight, but not in the same location. They're testing to see whose will hold up the weight, go the furthest. And there's the little circle. We've yet to have one go the circle yet, but they're still trying. And then Greek and Latin root words. This is a matching game where they lined up the roots. They had to figure out what the meaning was, and then they were challenged to see how many words they could come up with the root words. So that was fun too. All hands-on. 3rd grade, Rubik's Cube. They love the cube. We use that in order to do area, perimeter, volume, pixel art, graphing. They've read Sudoku and the Tiger Rising. And at the end, Tiger Rising, we got to watch the movie. And then we made origami paper cranes and origami tigers. 3rd grade again, Rube Goldberg chain reactions, and a visual for learning math with prime and composite numbers, where they see the prime number is the one circle, and how many of the prime makes up the composite number. They can see with the colors. Does that make sense? 4th grade. So 4th grade, part of teaching gifted with any students, it's great to have experts come in. And I love the idea of bringing the community in to share with the kids what they know. And this year the past couple of years, at the beginning of the year, we do $1 million project. And this year we had a representative from Ashworth Financial, Home Trust Bank, and Farm Bureau to come in and discuss how to use your money wisely, invest it, insurance. The children had $1 million they had to spend. Each week they would get an life happens. And so they'd have to change something. They had to research real estate, real college values, and all those types of things. And then the winner was this young lady. She used her money the wisest. She even came up with her own new dollar bill. And then the winner for best presentation got a payday bar, and the winner at each school for using their money the wisest got 10 grand bars. So they're $1 million. This was a lesson on friction. Flora has a challenge each year. This was their ball run, and the purpose of this was to make a ball run, and theirs was the slowest, so who could create the most friction inside their ball run. The NASA STEM packet. There's something about fourth and fifth grade that they love space. They love science fiction. So they are working their way through the engineers that work at NASA. So they had to create a welcome sign that when you're on your planet, that anybody could see, kind of like the movie Mars, get yourself back to home base. They had to make a shoe, and the shoe had to go they had to keep it on from one side of the room to the other. And then they had the shoe in the lower portion, as you can see, Tryon is making their own science fiction play, and they made a shoe with their emblem that's going to be on their costumes for when they do their play. And then the bead, it's a bead that changes, it starts out white and it changes color in the sun. So the children had to create a home that had one opening, and the home had to be in the sun for a minute. We did 1.5 minutes. And the bead could not change. If the bead changed color, they knew that their home was not safe and they were experiencing radiation inside the home. And then this one's been fun. Talk about a prototype and having to tweak it. They are making mechanical hands. And so the children, it's been so much fun. I let them draw on the tables with dry erase instead of paper. They think that's so cool. It wipes right off. But they make their plan. They get their supplies. They make their prototype, and then they test it. And they're currently in the testing process. It's fun watching them recognize how the hand moves and what's going to make something pick up or not. Fifth grade, geometricity. That was, it's a city that they're working on where they had different parts of the city, and they had to create, the section had to have a particular type of building and shapes included. And that was fun too, because an intersection is a T, and they're trying to create buildings. They're shaped like T's. It's like, think about this. Where are the shapes in the city? You don't have every building doesn't have to be that shape. But we had Kathy Ruth come in from Cole County Planning to talk with them about some of the things they'll learn more in high school and about city planning. And then we have some of them made a 3-dimensional of their perfect city. Architecture projects, they got to choose a different type of architecture to report on. And then straw rockets, they had, that's an old-fashioned foot air pump. They had to make their rockets go, and the whole process of determining how the pressure that builds up in order to make it to work or not. That was fun. One of the important things with the community, the children that I work with, is their social emotional learning. The picture on the left is a 5th grader that at the beginning of the year, they did selfie sculptures, and according to how they like to learn, how they handle stress, and what things they may need help on through the year, like time management, they created an art sculpture that you could tell what that said, according to what they needed. And then at the end of the year, just last week, they redid it. And it was the coolest thing for them to see visually how creative they've gotten over the year, because they always want to fit in a box. I'm like, no, you don't have to fit in a box. It's your art thing. You can do whatever you want to do. It was very rewarding for them and for me to see that they recognize how much they've grown this year and things that they still need work on. And then 4th grade, I have a book that I'm doing with them, what to do when good enough isn't good enough. And 5th grade is Fighting Invisible Tigers, Stress Management for Teens. Seems like a good book to help them go into middle school. And then Flexible Seating. There's always a mad dash in my room at Tryon to get to the flexible seating. And thanks to a grant from Scholastic, I was able to get more balls and wiggle chairs and those little seat cushions. So they love it. Kevin Burnett is at Saluda. As I said, these are some pictures of some things he's been doing over the past couple of years. Coding with Raspberry Pi. He does escape rooms or breakout rooms, either working with the teacher to extend on what they're doing in the classroom or something that the kids are interested in. Making the little wind-powered or cars, the fold and roll cars. This was looking at not just how to make the structure, but what materials would be used, how tall you can make it, and how much stress could be taken, and then 3D shapes. And with that, on the next slide, it shows that they're making the tetrahedral kite building, so that you're making a tetrahedral and then you're making something fun. Again, an engineering challenge with design ideas, the material strength, water bottle buckets, the green screen. Isn't that fun? And then they made little free libraries that are around Polk County. Very proud of those. And then Ms. Ferran, one of the things with, as they get older, you want to really make sure that you teach them about global views, connecting to your community. How are you going to solve problems? How are you going to make your community better? And so she is working with Conserving Carolina. She was quoted in Blue Ridge Now saying, we're looking at problems as things that can be fixed using creative ways of fixing them. And then they're cleaning up around the area, looking at the ecosystem, figuring out how they can make it nicer, work with the area, more enjoyable place. Some of the students were talking about the erosion that's happened. And then too often we give children answers to remember rather than problems to solve. AIG all day, every day.
Mr. Chair, I think the plan is very consistent with what we've done in the past. Obviously, the district administration is supportive. Ms. Granville doing the wonderful work that she's doing, along with Mr. Burnett and the other teachers, John Ferran. So obviously, we recommend approval of this particular plan. But I want to say thank you to Ms. Granville for doing the work, and thanks to Jan Crump and Kimberly Granville for making sure our AIG students are supported and well taught.
And I had an opportunity, as you mentioned, to be a part of the $1 billion project, and it was an awful lot of fun. Appreciate being a part of it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Well, folks, this is an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion in a second to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Granville. Up next, we have Summer Learning Program. Ms. Jane.
Good evening, Superintendent Green and members of the board. It's another wonderful day to be working in the Polk County school system. And when I see presentations like that, my heart just smiles. We have so many great things happening in our classrooms every day, and so excited to have that opportunity to celebrate our students and the great work that they are doing. So I would also like to just make a statement. This is Educator Appreciation Month. So we'd just like to tell all of our educators and everyone that works for Polk County Schools how much we love and appreciate the hard work that they're doing every day. I can tell you for certain that many of our employees did not go into their professions for the money that they are making. They went into these jobs because they love children, they're passionate about education, and they want to make a difference in the child's life. So we are so excited about having that opportunity to do that and to bless our students every day. I would like to tell you a little bit about some of the summer offerings that we're going to be taking place this summer. We'll have the Elementary Summer Learning Program. That is going to be for K-5 students, and it will be June the 15th through June the 30th. It will actually take place at the Polk County Middle School campus, and it's for our students who are at risk. So it will be by invitation only from the teachers at all 4 of the elementary schools. Those students will be invited to participate in the summer learning program. We will be doing reviewing with reading, with math, and also with science during that time. Breakfast and lunch will be served, and also transportation will be provided from the elementary locations to the middle school for that summer learning program. Very similar to what we did last year, except this is a 2-week program instead of 6 weeks. Also at our middle school, during the first 2 weeks of August, we're so excited that they're going to be able to start back with their annual Jumpstart program. Each team will take a week to give the rising 6th graders an opportunity to meet teachers and participate in those core curriculum activities. So it really gives those students an opportunity to get on campus and kind of learn a little bit about the middle school before that first day of school hits in the fall. And then new this year, our high school will be offering the first 2 weeks of August. We are using 2 of the federal PRCs that we have been given to offer a summer bridge program and a career exploration program. And all incoming 9th graders will be invited to attend. It's very similar to, in some ways, to what the middle school will be doing with their incoming 6th graders. But the students will be working with the English and the math teachers, and basically they're going to simply bridge the gaps in learning due to COVID-19 related educational loss. So additionally, they'll be working with students on setting goal strategies, working with coping skills, high school planning, and post-secondary planning. So we're just really excited about this opportunity for our high school students. And we will also be able to participate in career exploration through site visits and to some of the local businesses and agencies. So I also have a student, a child of my own that's in high school right now, and I can tell you getting these children out into the work field and being able to physically see the jobs and what takes place really helps them as they're thinking about what career they would like to explore one day. So we're excited about having this opportunity to provide to our students. And we just wanted to make you aware of those activities.
Mr. Chair, I do think our summer plan has to be approved, the second assessment administration, things like that. So if you're pleased with the plan, the district administration will support approval of our summer learning program.
Any questions for Ms. Crump? This is an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion in a second. So
I'll second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Crump.
Thank you.
Next, we have our summer feeding program, Ms. Jennifer Peeler.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody today? I just want to go over some of the things we're doing this summer for feeding. We're doing Jan's middle school programs, the 2 that she's doing. And we're also doing 2 sites for the YMCA, Tryon Elementary and Polk Central Elementary School. We'll be feeding those, and they're also going to be open sites also. That anybody that wants to come from 18 down can come get a meal at those sites also. And so, and also we are doing a something new this year. We're going to try, you know, we have the van now. So we're going to try to do mobile sites, and which is going to be like Ashley Meadows, we're going to Gibson Pool, Steps of Hope. They're having a 2-week summer program for the younger children. And then Sunnyview Elementary, they're going to have a reading program that summer and stuff. And so we're going to actually work out of Pope Central Elementary, and we're going to stop at those sites also and give food out. And those can be open sites too. It'll be out there in the public. You can go on the website and find out where all of our feeding locations are going to be. And so I'm excited about that this year. And I think, you know, that would be a good program to have. And also another thing we're going to be doing this year is Bible schools. We've not attempted, this is another thing we haven't attempted this year either. It's we can supply the food for Bible schools. The thing is I have to do like a pre-site visit to make sure, you know, they have a kitchen that's big enough to handle the food and stuff. And what it is, I sort of have a menu, different menus I give them, they get to choose from. And it's like the summer feeding program last year, you know, we have to get on a certain thing and they have to take all options. And the Bible schools can either add more stuff to the menus if they like. It's not like they're just set with mine, but they have to take what on my menu. And on that too is I have to do, like I say, the pre-site visit. And then I have to go out and do 2 site visits also during the week of the Bible school. I have to go out and make sure they're following the guidelines and everything. And I also have to do training. For each church is going to do it. We have to do a training to make sure, because we have tally sheets that we have to mark off the children so we can get our fund reimbursement from the government. You know, we have to have everything documented and everything. And so right now we have 4 churches that we're working with to get it started for the summer. Next summer, I'd like to double, triple that. So, but I want to see how it's going to go this year and how much, how long it's going to take me to get around to everybody's sites and stuff. You know, I'll probably have to get my assistant to help me out with going out at night and doing, because, you know, most Bible schools are at night. So, and also the Manna Food Bank reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and wanted to know if I wanted to take up that for next year too, which they also have a summer feeding program also. So as we're going out to our mobile sites or like Bible schools or maybe at the YMCA, we're going to be able to send weekend meals home with children also. And I think the lady was talking that there's a lot of fresh produce that they're going to be giving us this summer to send home with the children. I think that's a wonderful program. So, but that's our plans for the summer. We're quite ambitious this summer, so we'll see how it turns out. So.
Mr. Chair, you can tell that, this is a lazy lady. She just doesn't. Ms. Peeler and her staff were tremendous throughout and setting up food sites and delivering meals and those things. And they absolutely will go anywhere they can to make sure that young people have food. And really appreciate your effort and all the things you do for our community on that side. And we'll obviously communicate these opportunities out and just appreciate the work by you and your department.
Yeah. And when you leave, you want to check out the van. We finally got decals on it. It says child nutrition. That way, when we're out driving around in the public, giving out meals, people know that we're just who we say they are. And we're just not out there just getting the police called on us, out in this neighborhood. And stuff.
Got food from another band,
yeah. Big white band. So yeah, but that's our plans for the summer. So we're very excited about it.
Any questions from Ms. Beeler? Thank you, Ms. Beeler. I
Well,
think it's
thank you.
information only, correct?
All right, it is, yes. So, all right, have a great night.
Thank you, ma'am.
You as well. Next up, we have the Tryon Elementary Preschool update, Mr. Dave Sherman.
So we brought you or asked you last month to approve the architect for the Tryon Elementary project. You chose through the facilities committee and the full board chose Pinnacle Architects. The work that Kathy did got us $1.5 million from the Head Start, federal Head Start program to start us the construction of that project. Mr. Green and staff here worked with the DPI needs-based assessment capital program, and we were awarded last week $1.3 million to add to the 1.5 to fund this particular project. So we kind of got started with them with your approval last month with an idea for that construction. We now have 2.8 million, which is about the amount of money that we thought this project was going to take a couple of years ago when we started it. Unfortunately, construction prices have risen significantly since then. So I'm not sure where exactly we're going to fall. We have 2.8 of what we're going to guess is going to be a 3.2, 3.3, $3.5 million project somewhere along there. So we're much closer than we were before we got the 1.3 million, but we're not quite there yet. But we had a good meeting today with representatives from Pinnacle Architecture, their kind of their salesperson and their architect, Mr. Green, and myself and Kathy Harding kind of laid out the general requirements for this new building. We shared with them the drawing that we already have, talked about some good parts of that drawing and things we would want changed now that it's 2 years later as part of that our design and things that we have thought about changing. So we are expecting sometime in the next 2 weeks to get the first draft of this Pinnacle Architecture's design, very rough idea of what they would recommend. They've seen the site. We toured through there. We toured them through Forbes and set the bar very, very low there, as we explained, that this was a building designed for DOT or for Duke Energy operations, and we made it into a preschool that doesn't work very well as a preschool. So all we want is something better than we have right now, which is a a very low bar to hit. We're looking forward to that project. Like I said, a couple of weeks, we'll get a drawing. We'll start working through that. As we make changements, bring options to you all to look at. Eventually, that'll lead to the bid documents and building and, however long that takes. Our hope, I think in the grand scheme of things, would be the building finishing this time-ish next year. So that will start the next school year in that facility. If it's a great winter and everything goes great, I mean, there's a chance, partway through the next school year, but our deadline we're really aiming for is the beginning of a school year away from now. So we're close, but still a long way away. Moving forward though.
Questions for Mr. Sherman? Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Yep.
Right back to you, Mr. Sherman.
Back to me again. Next project I have going on.
Yes, sir.
This one is the high school renovation. I keep showing you the same picture that we've used time and time again. As I said, we finished sections A1 and A2, the upstairs and the downstairs. We did upstairs and downstairs of the B section. Those are the two main classroom areas of our building right there. We then moved on to section N. That's what we've been working on for the last roughly month or so. That's the new wing, the couple of classrooms that are down there, the new wing, the band room, the music room, the chorus room. They finished those sections, and we've now moved on to what I'll call a combination of C and D. We plan to only start in section C, and that's the media center for the most part, in some areas directly around there. In working with Dr. Schweitzer, he was able to clear up a few of those classrooms and a few offices in the D section of the building. So he moved a couple of those classrooms, moved a couple of those offices, and we're starting the demolition today on the C and the D sections right there. They're gone back to working nights. They were working during the day in that new wing that we could completely shut off from the rest of the school. So they're starting tonight in C and D. That'll take us into the summertime. We're not expecting that area. C's and D's will not be finished before that. Our next sections that'll be after June 10th will be the previous work in any punch work list we have to do there. And then we're kind of going to jump to the other side of the building. We're going to start at the gym end and work our way back to sections E, which is the cafeteria, and then C, and then D. We want to make sure that as our sporting events start happening again in the fall or the late summer, I should really say, as volleyball starts, as other things start, that our gym is ready to go, and then we work our way backwards so that the cafeteria and the classrooms are all ready for the beginning of August. Our, at this point, date for getting the building back to us is the first week of August. By that time, they'll be doing punch lists, working through, and we should be ready to start the school year back in that building, except for a few punch lists and a few other little projects to finish up by the end of August, the middle of August. They should be out of the building and ready for cleanup and starting the school year. We tentatively and expectedly so have our beginning of the year convocation scheduled for this building at the end of August, and that's right as the teachers' work days. So our plan, they've been great for the last year. They've stayed on schedule. We have all the equipment. All they need to do is finish up that piping work and all that duct work and all that work through those sections of the building there. And we'll be right on and ready to go. The last part, I just keep you updated each month. So far, we've made about 3.8 million. Almost 3.9 million is what we paid them up to this point. We still are pending about 2.3 million for that last third of the building. Remember, that's off. We have more than a third of the building kind of left to do, or maybe not at this point, maybe we don't. But remember, we prepaid for some of that big equipment, and so our payment up ahead is a little higher than you might expect as far as we've made it through the building. But still on track. 2.3 million left to go in August. Starting the school year with the building ready to go in August.
Thank you, Mr. Sherping. Any questions for Mr. Sherping? Right, then moving on under administrative, our first item here is a budget amendment. Ms. Debbie Leathers.
Okay, in your budget packets, quite a few amendments this time, and I expect that to be over in the next couple of months also. DPI's trying to get to the end of their year, so they're kind of thumb barred and saw at one time. In state funds, there was additional revenues for summer reading camp and some additional monies on textbooks. They give us textbooks throughout the year a little bit, and a lot of times near the end of the year, you'll get a little bit extra. That does carry over from one year to the next, which we will have for next year. Fund 2, I just had a transfer between Purpose Code 5,000 and 6,000 to budget more money for charter schools. We probably won't spend all that, but I want to make sure I went ahead and got that adjusted there for the end of the year. And Fund 3, this one is, let me make sure I'm in 3, yes. This is just various additional revenue budgets processed by DPI. That was 21st Century, IDEA, which is some of our EC funds, and also a legislative teacher bonus. So that was 594,721. Fund, okay, this is child nutrition. Child nutrition got some extra money this year for because of the having a hard time getting some of the like milk and different things. So DPI gave them some extra money for that purpose because of supply chains. Normally this doesn't happen. This is probably the first time. I might have had a little bit last year, but maybe twice since I've been here. USDA usually doesn't do that, but they did give extra money just because of supply chain problems. And okay, Fund 8. This is a pretty large amendment. This is where, well, part of it was a small amount was van grant. There were some Facebook AIG grants that that they got, and a small grant from NC North Carolina State University for FFA and E-rate devices. This is mostly E-rate devices. We did not actually pay for, I think it was $500,000. We didn't actually pay that. That was a grant that they through E-rate to get to upgrade our devices to our students. I think our cost was like 40-some thousand, what it was.
Close to that.
And then the rest of it, different, I think most of the districts got this, but that was wonderful. So basically I have to book it because it's still considered, I talked to the officer last week, I still have to book it as a revenue and expenditure, even though we didn't actually pay for it, but it has to be on our books because of assets. And that's all.
Any questions for Ms. Lovelace? This is an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay. Oh. For a second. I was moving on. I was like, oh, wait a second.
Make a motion and then cancel yourself.
Our next item is YMCA agreement for use of facilities. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The YMCA, we met with them recently, and as you know, they utilized Tryon Elementary School last year for their summer camp programs, and they want to expand and include more students in that, and so they're asking to also use Hope Central Elementary this year in addition to Tryon Elementary. I think we're in support of that. You get on both sides of the county, maybe serve more students. I think that's a good thing. The MOU that was attached is the older MOU, and I need to go back with them. Mr. Fagan and I talked about what we had used last year was more of a lease type document instead of an MOU. And so with the board's permission, I would like for us to give approval to have the YMCA at both those sites pending that lease agreement being reviewed and approved by Mr. Fagan. The certificate of liability insurance is there. That is the accurate one dated this year. And so that covers the YMCA for being in our buildings. But would like to move away from that MOU and have our own lease agreement that looks more like we did last year. So we would we would seek your approval pending Mr. Fagan and I getting that done with the YMCA.
Using just the gyms?
This is classrooms too. They do day camp programs there. So obviously they'll have to work around our cleaning schedules and things like that. And they're aware of that. They've been really good about working with us in that regard.
What's the end date on that?
They'll be done, I think, the week before teachers, that we know, they know when teachers come back, they've got to be out of the building so the teachers can get their rooms ready. So the week before students start back, they would be out of there. They also, I think, are taking the week of July 4th off. That's typically when we do our gym floor resurfacing. And so they know that the facility won't be available that week of July 4th.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Green?
YMCA have been good partners. They continue to work well with us and they give us opportunities to provide them feedback midstream. So if something's not going well, we work with them and they help us and we help them.
Again, this is an actionable item, folks. We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval. Motion have a second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
I didn't fall for it that way.
Next, moving on, we have Head Start, Ms. Kathy Harding.
Well, hello. We are given the opportunity from the Office of Head Start to apply for COLA, cost of living adjustment, and for quality improvement money. They use a formula and tell us how much we can apply for. We don't usually turn down offers to apply for money. So I am coming to you for approvals that I can submit the application. We use the COLA money to offset the cost of fringe benefits for our employees, which just goes up, as Debbie Lovelace will tell you, a lot every year. The quality improvement money, we have options to use. And some of the options is to lower our class ratio, to enhance the physical environment for children with disabilities. So what we will do is look at to see what's the best use of that $10,000. Doesn't sound like a lot of money, $25,599, but we'll take it. So I would like approval to submit that application. At the same time, we want to submit a one-time funding application. Now, this is not money that they say they're going to give to us. You know, our $1.5 million that we're so thankful for the Office of Head Start awarding us, it took about 4 or 5 years to get that money. So I will tell you that this one-time funding money is available nationwide on an as-needed basis, on a priority basis. So what I'm saying to you is that it is hard to get. But if we don't ask for it, we're not going to get anything. So the cost of that building back in 2018, when we first started this project, was around $247 a square foot. Now it's estimated to be around $300 to $325 per square foot. So if they have any extra money laying around, we'll take it to offset the cost of that building. I will tell you that the priority for this one-time funding, and this is one of the reasons it took us so long to get the 1.5 million, is, for example, if there's a hurricane that goes through Louisiana, those extra funds that they get at the end of the year for Head Start is going to go to those facilities that have emergencies that need facilities to be rebuilt. But again, we need to be on the list in case they decide they have a little bit of extra money, you know, in their little piggy bank. So I asked for approval to submit the application for the COLA and quality improvement funding, and then the one-time funding of $450,000.
Any questions for Ms. Harding? We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Harding. Next, Mr. Green, we need to establish some dates for our summer board meetings.
So, Mr. Chair, as we typically do in the summertime, we try to hold our regular June 3rd, June meeting date, which and this month is going to be June 13th. And then we try to add an additional meeting at the end of June so that we can wrap up any fiscal reports, budget amendments, things like that, that we need to do approval on different personnel pieces. And so I would recommend to the board, if it's amenable to the members, that we meet on June 13th and then have another meeting on June 27th, which is the Monday of that last week of June. And then we would not meet in July. We would move that July meeting to the 27th of June. So obviously, if that doesn't work for you guys, we can talk about it better.
I will not be here the fourth of June and 27th, so that day does not work. Yeah, policy that week.
So we look at a different week.
It's gonna be tough for me too.
Okay. What would you guys prefer?
I know it makes it more difficult. We can't push it too close to the end of the month, but.
July 4th.
It's on Monday. July 11th, too late.
We need to meet before the end of June.
That's usually the
Because
the fiscal year is over June 30th. So
Right.
would you be able to do it the Thursday before, maybe? It'll be a very short, very brief meeting.
I certainly could, yeah.
That'd be the 23rd.
I think so.
I may have to join remotely.
I'll be down that week.
You join remotely?
Good.
Ms. Lovelace says I can give you some time, or we just have to make it work on it.
That's a 6:30 meeting.
6:30, or again, if you guys need us to move the time, move the time. If you'd rather back it up and do something different, we can.
Remote will be an option.
Yes.
Like we can make it work. I can.
Okay. All right.
So we're doing the 13th and the 24th, is that correct?
All right, Mr. Green, so
23rd.
23rd.
That 13th be remote option?
We can always zoom in.
all right, next we have the superintendent's update, Mr. Aaron. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to vote on that.
Oh, we gotta vote. Oh, okay, then we need a motion and a second for approval.
I make a motion. A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Sorry about that, Mr. Green.
No problem.
Now we'll move on to your update.
So this is our monthly decision on any type of change to our pandemic protocols. The district administration would recommend we continue our current course of action. But we will need a vote on that.
I'll make the motion that we continue with the last option. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving now under old business, Mr. Green, we have book challenges.
Before we get to that, Mr. Chair, I do want to throw something in from our budget conversations. If you'll recall, we had our workshop. We did mention that there may be some state supplement funding, additional funding for districts to use for their local supplements, and that money did come through. And so what I've handed you guys to take a real quick look at, it's hot off the presses. We've gotten that money now. We've been able to figure out what that amount's going to be if we divide it up among our qualifying or eligible employees. And so we bring this to you. What this is going to amount to is about $1,300 for licensed staff members. And you can see in the description there in terms of eligibility that would be your teachers, school counselor, psychologist, audiologist, speech language path, media coordinators, social workers. Our pre-K would not be in there, so we'd have to come up with some pre-K money and some local money to get those pre-K teachers in. But that's who would be eligible for this. The restrictions would be very similar to what we did with the retention bonus. The employee would have to have started employment with us by December 31st at the end of last year, and obviously currently be employed. But we certainly we got that money from the state for that purpose. Our teachers absolutely deserve it, and so we would recommend approval of this one-time additional local supplement, the amount of approximately $1,300. It's probably going to be $1,326, $1,327 when we plug it in, but it'll be at least $1,300 for this year, and that comes directly from those funds that were awarded to our district.
This is the money we just approved in the budget amendment?
Some of it, yes.
Some of it? Okay. All right.
That would be paid in a separate check sometime before probably their June paycheck or right around that time, but it'll take us a little bit to get everything put in and checked through. So we'd be looking for approval on that, please.
Any questions? Is an action item, we'll be looking for a motion?
So much.
Okay. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Just as a note, supposedly this is gonna be reoccurring, but we don't know how much it's gonna be yet. This is something the state's starting to do. That was something for teachers.
I believe it was in the bank.
Okay. All right, then we will now move on to the book challenges, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we know, the challenging of library books has occurred throughout history in public education. And once again, school districts find themselves in the middle of this particular issue. There are typically strong feelings on both sides of these issues, and the board is aware of the current challenges to books in our media centers. An update on the progress of these challenges were requested by the public, and the board felt it would be good to have Dr. Schweitzer, principal of Polk County High School, to be here with us tonight to give an update. Dr. Schweitzer, thank you for being here with us during a very busy time of year, I know, for you. But we do have some questions that I'd like to respond to for the board regarding the book challenges that you're working through at this time. So thank you for being with us.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Green, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, Dr. Schweitzer, can you give us an idea of how many books are being challenged at the present?
Sure. We received an initial request for review of roughly a batch of 16 books. Well, not roughly, it was exactly a batch of 16 books. Since that time, there have been 2 additional singular challenges that have been issued for a total of 18.
Okay. And have any final decisions been made on any of these books yet?
No, sir. We are still in process with our first batch of 16 books, working through that.
So no final decisions have been made?
No, sir.
Okay. Are any of the challenged books currently required reading for students?
None of the books, to my knowledge, are currently required readings. We have reviewed and vetted all of our different syllabi throughout the school to be sure. We have none of those books in circulation as required materials.
So I know you're aware of Board Policy 3210. We've had discussions about that, and it covers challenges to materials. And it states that the principal may establish a committee, but it doesn't require the principal to do so. So tell us about your intent behind forming that committee, the process in developing that committee to review the books. Tell us about that.
Sure. For me, I think it was important to hear the viewpoint and have a diverse committee, be able to work through those things. I certainly didn't want to be in a position where we were making kind of a unilateral decision with a small group of people in a vacuum. So it's important to hear that perspective from our community. We reached out initially to the individuals that initiated the first 2 challenges, just to see if they would be willing to serve on that community. They declined that board, they declined. But then we asked if there was any representatives they felt like would be good picks for that board. And they gave us a few names to be able to reach out to. Our board consists of, or our committee consists of 5 parents of students within Polk County schools. There's 1 ELA teacher that is also the parent of a high school age student at our school, our director of curriculum instruction, and myself.
Okay. As far as that committee, how is it progressing? Where are you guys at in your process?
So we began the process by doing some norm setting, talking about how we were going to engage in this work. And being an old history teacher, I had to jump at the idea of going right into where we've been with different parts to this. What is the case law involved and things we need to be considering as we're working through it? What is the back history surrounding personnel and budgeting issues with our media center? How are books put in our media center? What is the vetting process behind it, as I understand it, and all those kinds of pieces? So we spent a great deal of time on the front end working through those pieces. And we have since moved into reviewing individual novels on a bi-weekly basis. It generally, depending on the length of the novels, we could do 1 to 2 books about every 2 weeks.
I know you're still in the middle of this process, but can you give us an idea of the age of these books and what type of circulation or checkout data you might have on them over the years?
It's hard to say because in the first 16, it's quite a bit of diversity in terms of age. Some of them are relatively newer novels published in the last, say, 5 years. Some of them are much older, have been in our media center for going on a decade. And the circulation material, I have to be careful about how I present that as well, because I can make the data say what I need it to say. So what I'll simply say about that is our circulation count all the way across our entire media center is very low. And when you take a look at a lot of these different novels, our circulation counts average between 15 to 18 times in the last 10 years or so. Some of them as low as 5 circulations.
Okay. Is it common for public high school libraries to have books with controversial themes and topics?
I think that's a bit of a difficult question, but I'll say it this way. Public libraries public schools are designed to serve the public and all the diversity therein. So as a result, I think a media center specialist is challenged with trying to curate and develop a collection that represents that diversity of ideals. That being said, there is a dedicated vetting process that they go through. And I've actually had to learn a lot about this in my time working through it. I think some of the things that I've heard said to me and a process that I actually thought underwent until I jumped into this is that the state would simply send us a batch of books. Just in a box it would arrive that we were to put on our shelves blindly. That is not the case. On a yearly basis, Follett, who is one of the leading textbook and book distributors throughout the state and who we currently contract with, Follett will send out a list of here are the popular and recommended books. And then each individual media center specialist will go through a vetting process for all of those. That vetting process consists of starting with Tidal Wave, which Tidal Wave is like a pendulum or collection of review materials from a variety of sources, all the way up to looking at individual sources on their own, stuff like Horn Book Guide, Publishers Weekly, School Library Journal, Common Sense Media, just lots of different sources in different places trying to gain a perspective on number one, is this age appropriate for our students? And number two, what is the review saying about the academic benefits to the book versus some of the maybe content that may be a bit controversial and things that a media center specialist needs to be aware of.
Okay. Why did the folks who submitted these challenges, assuming they're parent, why did they tell you they wanted to initiate these challenges? Was it because their child read the book and was offended, that they read the book and they were offended? And I'm obviously asking you to speculate, but what are the reasons behind the challenges?
Yeah, I think that it definitely would be me speculating. I think I can say it this way. Parents in general are concerned about their children and worried about what they have access to in schools. I think that's not to be overlooked and is a good thing. I certainly encourage more parental involvement in education. I think that's definitely a positive as we move forward. With all that being said, I think what I'm hearing is a lot of conversation on the front end about maybe how the pandemic shined a different light on how schools engaged in their work all throughout our country. You started hearing stories about different areas all throughout our country with different novels and different books that were located in media centers. And then as a result, I think it sparked interest in what was going on in our own media center and some of those kinds of things. Again, any response would be speculative. I'm not sure if an individual may have checked out a book and read it and spoke to their parents about it, came back to me. I have not heard that yet.
So you're not aware if this is a list of books that came from an outside source? Have you been given any kind of list of, maybe more books that we need to be on the lookout for? Or
I've not been giving anything beyond just the original 16 that were given to me and then the 2 additional ones.
Have you had any students come to you about these books? And if so, what are these kids saying about the book challenges?
I haven't had any students come to me directly expressing concerns related to any of the books in our media center. What I have had is a few students come to me and ask questions about what's going on, what this process is, what's happening with it. Obviously, it's garnered a little bit of buzz within our community. And I've simply stated what I state to everybody, that there is some current books under review that we are working through, what that process looked like, those kinds of things. I think kids are a little bit confused by what we're doing and what's going on. I'll give you an example. As one of the comments that was made to me recently was, I don't think that older generations understand that the modern media center is not utilized the way that they were when they were in school, that they have access to an infinite amount of books on their cell phone and anything they want on Amazon or Kindle or those kinds of things, that the old school print libraries are not necessarily the primary means in which teenagers engage in that.
Do you have any idea of the authoritative sources that those who are challenging these books, maybe use them to determine the educational merit or artistic merit of these works? In other words, have you heard of any particular authoritative source, or has that been mentioned at all?
Not necessarily a authoritative source per se. I think we've talked about in the committee asking for balancing perspectives or different things about, as we go through this vetting, what are some other areas we need to be taking a look at in terms of, vetting books that are coming in. I do think that to the credit of the people who have brought forward the challenges, I know community members are reading the books and going through the process of determining how they feel about those things. They're earmarking certain things that they are concerned with, sending them back to our committee, going through all of those pieces. So not necessarily a broad authoritative source, but again, community members are taking the time to read through these and work through them on their pace.
Okay. For the parents who oppose these books or any books that we may have, can a parent tell the school that they don't want their student to have access to certain books in the school?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have always had a formal policy related to any curriculum materials that a parent may be upset about that their child's engaging with in school. That's always been handled through a process where they would bring that to my attention as principal. I would then work with step one, talking with the teacher to determine, number one, is the material that's being used directly aligned to the standard course of study. And if it is, then offering an alternate assignment or something more in line with that's something the parent may be comfortable with their child engaging in. So that's the formal process for engaging in the classroom. As far as our media center goes, we've talked about this at length inside the committee. There hasn't been necessarily a formal process. Informally, in talking with our former media center specialists and the way things have gone over time, they have just on their own kind of called and talked to different people and vetted through some things. Just knowing our community and knowing different people within the community, they would call a parent and say, hey, just giving you a heads up that your child may have checked this out. I know that you would express some concerns to me about some different things. So I know informally that was transpiring. What we are now offering is that we want to make it public and formally known that if any parent is concerned about a piece of material that's located in our media center, they would like for their child to not have access to, all they have to do is contact myself or contact Mr. Giles, who is currently our digital learning coordinator for the media center.
So have you received contact from parents in support of these books?
I have. I get the distinct pleasure of sitting right in the middle and hearing all sides of the conversation. So I've definitely heard individuals reach out to me concerned about where the line is drawn and where we are with things and where things, how far things may go. You know, what are we looking at in terms of possibly pushing out ideas on diversity of ideas, multiple perspectives, different things like that. So I definitely hear it from all different angles. I think that voice is valid as well.
So just to be specific, did you as a principal select these books personally?
No, sir. I did not personally select any of those books. I'm an ex-history teacher. If there's a media center selected by me, it'd be all, you know, biographies and historical texts. So I doubt the modern team would have fun engaging in that.
Have you ever assigned or suggested any of these books to students?
No, sir, I have not.
So we understand that you received numerous emails and calls from those saying that they're concerned citizens. And from what I understand, many of them attacked you personally and specifically for the presence of these books in the media center. Would you tell us what kinds of things were in those emails?
I'll be honest with you. I don't necessarily feel comfortable, I think, sharing a lot of that information. I'll just simply say it this way. People are very passionate about how they feel, especially when it comes to our children. That is something I can definitely respect. I think there's individuals that have expressed that passion in a variety of ways. But for me to start getting into, I think, sharing correspondence or anything like that, obviously it would be up for me to speculate about what's been said or not been said. And it's been my word against others. So as a result, I think what I would say in response to that is simply put that people are passionate about our kids. And I think that's common ground that we all share.
Thank you. Folks, public comments coming.
So is there anything that I haven't asked you about this particular process that you feel like the board needs to know or that you'd like to say?
No, I do think that this has been quite a challenging process we have found ourselves in. Obviously, it is fraught with all kinds of different implications from a variety of different angles. You know, the legal precedents alone and trying to navigate that has been difficult, you know, in and of itself. The one thing I will mention, just as a caveat, it's a somewhat unrelated event, but it is connected to access to our media center, is, as you heard earlier, our HVAC project has now extended to that wing of the building. And so our media center will be closed for the remainder of the semester. So we have called for all of our books to be returned to that point, and that service will not be provided to our student body for the rest of the semester.
So, Mr. Chair, I think that was the collection of questions that we had initially. So it's up to you guys if you'd like to add any further questions.
Any questions for Dr. Schweitzer?
How much time will you need to continue to finish reviewing all the books that are in question?
For this first batch of 16, we were estimating it would take us out to early August, just trying to work through 1 to 2 a week. I'll give you an example. There's one book on the list that's around 600 pages. A book like that with people working and doing it, it's going to take us probably 2 weeks just to do that one novel. However, others that made 300, 250 pages, we may be able to pair a couple of them up and get 2 done at a time. Obviously, we need to try to move as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can to get through this, and then move on to our second singular set of challenges that have come forward.
And do y'all meet, you said once a week or?
Bi-weekly, every 2 weeks.
And can anybody make a challenge, or does it need to come through a group or some other process?
Right now, it is open for just if someone reaches out and contacts me about their concerns. I do know in working with district administration, we are working towards a more formal process on how that challenge process will occur.
The board policy actually states parents. And so, part of this process too, I think would be good for the board to take a look at our policies and see what other folks might be doing in this vein so that we can have something that will be a better response when challenges do occur. In other words, making it a little more formal, a little more clear in terms of what that process would be.
Can we ask any questions? No,
Has,
sir.
has any other community members asked to be on that board to review the books?
I have had actually some reach out to me wanting to jump on kind of mid-process. I have not entertained that idea to this point. I think there's been a lot of groundwork that has been laid by this committee kind of building up to this point. I think it would be a little bit too much to throw an add-on members for this particular cycle. For future cycles, if we choose to go down this road, certainly. But for this one in particular, we have not entertained that.
Any other questions from Dr. Schweitzer? Thank you, Dr. Schweitzer.
Thank you.
Sure, if you don't mind, I do want to thank Dr. Schweitzer for being here tonight and for sharing the information. Want to make it several things clear. Final decisions have not been made on any of the challenge books. I want to make that clear right up front. Also want to be clear that this challenge is about access to books in the media center and not required assignments. And so there's already a process for requesting a different assignment or materials for required standard delivery. But this is about what books are in the media center, not what teachers are requiring students to read. We have a process by which parents can restrict their students' access to any optional book or instructional material. They can simply call the principal or the media coordinator. While these challenges are going on, we make these determinations. But any book at any time, parents can call and say, look, I don't want my child to have access to that particular book. In terms of, a lot of that happened in the past, as Dr. Schweitzer said, we haven't experienced a lot of that in the past, so it was an informal process, but we will make that formal so that folks know how to contact and how to get that done. We are working to hire a librarian for Polk County High School. We had budget cuts a while back, kind of postponed that, looking at, I think, the board members of that conversation. But now that we're on the other side of the pandemic, we'll look at making sure that we have a librarian in there. I think that will help with collection, curation, and management of that media center. And we are scheduling media collection audits for reviews this summer and going into next year so that we can make sure that what's listed in Follett and on our software is actually what's physically in the media centers, and to make sure that we do our regular cleaning. So when books are not checked out, you might have a book that's been there for 6 or 7 years and never been checked out before. So you may want to take that off the shelf. So not only the book challenges, but just the fact that we need to curate our collections and sort through those. That process will be going on this summer. It's been a while since it's done, and it's definitely part of managing a media center collection. A by school list of books is available on our website, and we are talking with our software companies about what future options are out there for parental access to make it a little easier to search and do those kinds of things rather than having to look at a big spreadsheet. So we'll update you on that as we hear from companies that are changing their software. Some of them are doing so in response to the nationwide challenges to some of these books. And as we discussed, we're working on a more streamlined process for the challenges, and we want to work with the board on any necessary policy revisions or changes that would help in that vein. As a point I'd like to make, I do want to remind folks, if you have a specific issue with an employee, that we ask that you meet in closed session with the board to have that discussion, or meet with the superintendent to have that discussion. It should not be done in a public meeting or a public forum like social media. And we've always worked to be sensitive to what our community wants for our students and schools. It's our obligation to work through these issues, and we want to partner with parents and community, but I think the key word there is to partner. And partnering does not mean trying to charge educators with crimes or running them down on social media. And I ask that we please refrain from this practice, as it does not improve relationships or progress. It only serves to deepen division and spread misinformation. But also ask that people be careful before putting inaccurate information out to others. It now seems that anyone can say anything and people will believe it if it fits their agenda or their particular view of the world. And just because it's on Facebook or their friend group likes it, doesn't mean it's true. And that's dangerous on many different levels. And I'm fearful if we don't start talking to each other instead of at each other, we're never going to get to where we want to be. We're not going to solve any problems. That's certainly not what we want, and I don't want to see those divisions worsen. I feel compelled to make this statement. Our educators are not evil people. They care deeply for the students they serve, and education is a calling for them. They're not seeking to harm children, nor are they criminals. There is no pornography in our curriculum, and our educators are not distributing pornography. And while I respect that people feel passionately about many topics, including this one, I would ask that we please refrain from over dramatizing things. If we're really worried about what our students have access to, then we should probably start by talking about cell phones. And I can assure you that kids can access whatever they want, anytime they want on their device. They tell us and show us this all the time. And many of the student issues we deal with in our schools are related to social media and what's done with and on cell phones. And I would argue we'd all be doing more to restrict access to bad stuff by regulating cell phones, but I really haven't seen a big push to remove them from the school setting. It may come to pass that some of these books are determined to lack educational merit or maybe better suited for the public library, but we need the time and the space to have those discussions and to follow our policies and procedures. We did not have to pull the books from the shelves when the challenges occurred, but we did so to show that we're willing to have serious discussions about them and about how our community feels. We're never going to get everyone to agree on everything, and that's why there are processes in place to promote dialogue and discussion, to encourage civil debate and discourse, and to hopefully reach compromises and solutions to move forward. We ask that the folks let us work through these processes and not forward conjecture and speculation that spreads inaccurate information or complicates that mission. We will definitely provide another update once this process is finished, and if parents or community members are not satisfied with the outcome at that time, there are remedies for that by appealing the administrative decisions to the board. And so I appreciate you giving me that opportunity to summarize and to give those thoughts to you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've got one.
No, sir. You can ask a question.
What better place to interact
Mr.
than
Shaughnessy,
right
if you
here and
interrupt
right
one
now?
more time,
Listen to me. Why don't you want to
You may leave
interact
now.
with us?
Please escort Mr.
You know
Shaughnessy
what?
out. Thank you.
Mike Ashworth, you're an embarrassment
Mr.
to this
Shaughnessy.
community. And you're also
You may leave.
pretty much on the board.
Step out.
Why can't we interact with you?
Have you asked him to leave?
When do we interact with you? This is appalling, you folks. It's appalling. You get
If
to
you don't
make,
leave. I'll
Keep coming to him, keep coming to him,
how many cops do we have
keep
here
coming
tonight?
to him, because that's gonna be on the news tonight, keep coming.
How many do we have?
I will make sure that's on, as meant tonight.
You want to go next? Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Green? Board members, if there are no questions, as you all know, I reached out today and I prepared some comments as well. I'll read those at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, this issue cannot be just about books, masks, or any other issues that we have dealt with these past couple of years. Rather, there has to be something more to it. I mean, if that is not it, what is the end game in all of this? It has gone from our board being the source of concerns, then to our administration. And I suppose before it's all said and done, our poor teachers will be targeted next. It seems like the fights keep coming, and to me, the point behind all of these fights being brought to our doorstep has to be to degrade our school system in the end. And what a shame that would be for that to happen, given we have consistently been one of the top school systems in the state, year in and year out for many years now. If I am wrong here, and this is not the case, then I implore all of you to begin walking alongside us, follow our policies and procedures around things, handle any potential issues in a logical and civil manner. Let's not put false information out on social media or try to strum up charges against our administration and attempts to tear us down. We're all reasonable people that all want what you say you want also, and that is what is best for the students of Polk County. If we do not try to find ways to work together, this is going to wind up being at the expense of our schools and our children in the long run. Because our educators can only endure so much, and they're extremely difficult, if not impossible in some cases, to replace. We are already seeing teachers leaving over all of the divisiveness, and many of the ones we still have are beginning to be afraid to teach what they need to over fears of the repercussions that may come their way. It also seems that much of the divisive commentary is coming from those that don't even have students in our district. For those that do have children in our district and disagree with how we serve students, there are other options for education. We work hard to be responsive to our parents and our community, and we take our role seriously. So again, I implore you to work alongside us. Let's work together and understand we have to hear all the voices and work with very different groups of people with different ideas about education. Because frankly, ladies and gentlemen, we have all had enough of the bickering and fighting, and we do not want to see our great school system impacted any further than it already has been. Thank you. Please, any new business?
Ironically enough, it is Educator Appreciation Week. And we have certainly been celebrating this month. As you know, in May, we typically do an Educator Appreciation Month, and we try to do something for staff members. There are lots of giveaways, prizes, discounts. Our community steps up in large fashion to provide discounts on everything from landscaping to oil changes to tickets to, the monster truck rally. So we appreciate all of our community coming through with those things. I also want to let you know that on May 24th from 3:30 to 6:30 at Stearns, we've gotten some support from our community foundation to hold basically a celebration of public education here for Polk County schools. And to have our teachers come by with their families, have food trucks available, have activities for kids, and basically just have a good time and tell them that we appreciate them for doing the job that they do. So I want to make the board aware of it being Educator Appreciation Month. Would encourage you to shoot an email out to our staff. If you'd like to, send it to me and I'll make sure they get that word. But I cannot speak highly enough about the wonderful men and women that I get the opportunity to work with every single day and that do a tremendous job for the students here in Polk County.
All right, any other new business?
That's it.
All right, under information, we have a laundry list of things here. We've got the April pre-K monthly report, April Head Start policy council minutes, pre-K financial report, monthly financial report, credit card report. We have the Memorial Day holiday coming up May 30th. The Polk County Early College graduation is May 21st, and it's at 10 o'clock at Polk County High School Auditorium. Then we have the Polk County High School graduation on June 10th at 7 p.m. at GM Tennis Stadium. The last day of school for students is June 10th, and last day of school for staff is June 14th. We have optional board training offered, Summer Leadership Conference, June 20th to the 24th at Carolina Beach. Board training July 18th and 19th in Raleigh, and November the 14th through the 16th at the Sheraton Greensboro Curry Convention Center. Folks, at this time, we will have our public input. As a reminder, during public input, we do not need to address any individuals or teachers, students, anything of that manner. It will be kept to 3 minutes apiece. And also, folks, I'll make one request. It doesn't have to be done, but we have emails with all the copies of the excerpts from these books at this point in time. We have now books in front of us with all these excerpts here in front of us. We don't need to hear those again. We've heard them in one meeting before. We don't need to hear them again. So with that being said, we'll move on. First person up is Doug Clark.
Good evening. My name is Doug Clark. I live in Tryon, and I've been happy to hear all the positive programs, and I commend you and for your remarks, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to support Polk County educators. They must be defended against dangerous disinformation. Recently, I received this campaign mailer from our state representative. It says, Jake Johnson will fight to ban CRT. It adds critical race theory as a racist tool of the leftist agenda to corrupt our children. It has absolutely no place in North Carolina classrooms. This flyer also claims that critical race theory teaches our children to hate each other based on skin color, that America is a racist country. It goes on. Now, first I threw this in the trash, but then I said, no, this must be answered. Since Mr. Johnson lives in Polk County and represents Polk County, he must be talking about classrooms in Polk County schools. He's saying that your teachers and administrators are implementing this racist tool of the leftist agenda to corrupt our children. That your teachers and administrators are teaching children to hate each other based on their race, and that America is a racist country. Now, you know this is nonsense. There is no leftist agenda to corrupt our children at work in Polk County schools. But Mr. Johnson wants people to think there is. And if some people believe it, they might get angry. And some of them might aim their anger at your teachers and administrators, or at you. That's the trouble with rhetoric like this. When people believe inflammatory lies, some of them act on their belief. And we've seen that happen. The attack on the Capitol is one example. So I implore you to defend your teachers and administrators from this dangerous disinformation. Deny it and denounce it. Only the truth will defeat lies. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Kelly Handy.
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent, community members, I'm Kelly. I'm a leader of the publication or the Public Education Advocacy Group. And I just wanted to put it on the record that our group put together a lovely lunch for the high school staff. And we spent about 3 hours with that group. We did it in conjunction with the Congregational Church and Jeff and Jody's Harris's Baptist Church. So it was a kind of a community collaborative teacher and public education professionals appreciation lunch. So we did have a chance to talk with them and listen to them, and they had lots of concerns. The morale was definitely a little lower than we had hoped for, but our group's main purpose is to work together to do morale boosting initiatives to keep some of the great educators that we have here in Polk County here with our kids. So we're about 450 members strong, and a lot of us are really, really happy with all the progress that you guys have made with all of our kids. We're not dissatisfied in any way. And when we do have issues, they're always addressed quickly and with care. And we're really happy, and we're very, very, very grateful. Thank you.
Next, we have German Ruiz.
Hello. Sorry, I have a lot of notes here, but I want to start off by just making a comment. There's a lot of notes. Anyway, when you guys tell us that we can go somewhere else, that's that really doesn't, it just doesn't sound right coming out of you. You guys are civil servants. I mean, we're holding you accountable, and yeah, it's uncomfortable. I understand that, but that's the second time we've been told to either homeschool or take our kid out and do something else. We have concerns, and we are willing to work with you and let you know what solutions we can reach, and we expect you guys to work with us. But telling us that we can go somewhere, that's just kind of like a tantrum, really. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just want to come and educate you guys a little bit. One of the authoritative sources that libraries use for these books is the American Library Association. And I would ask if any of you know who their president is. You probably don't, I know. And, we all have jobs and research this stuff all the time. But the new president is Emily Drabinski. And this is what she says about herself on her Twitter page. I can't believe that a Marxist lesbian who believes that collective power is possible to build and wield can be wielded for a better world is the president-elect of the ALL Library. Her areas of interest for research are critical library instruction, gender and sexuality, and information studies. So when we talk about critical race theories being taught, it's coming right from these top-level organizations. Okay, it's in the schools. It's not. It may not be in the curriculum written in there, but it is coming from these organizations that inform the schools. She's written papers like Queering the Catalog, A Space for Pleasures of All Kind on Cruising the Library. If you don't know what cruising is, it's look it up. It's an activity that gay individuals, LGBT community participate in. What's gender got to do with it? So I just have to ask, are these truly impartial sources, or is there an agenda here? That's the president. So, and these are papers that she's written. These are her words. These are not mine. So when we raise these questions and we become critical of how these books got here, and we see things like this, yeah, it's not radical to think, hey, what's going on? And all we're doing is imploring you guys to do the right thing. So look, you don't even want us to read these things out loud. I would get fired if I read these things out loud at my job. I know they're not. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Amber Hall.
Hello, guys. I got some hands with me. First off, I want to say I was one of these parents that challenged some of these books, and my child don't have a cell phone. So that whole excuse, my child has unsupervised internet access. So not all kids in Polk County have this access, because we do know what is out there. We are trying to keep the innocence in our children as long as possible and let them be kids. I know that you ask us not to read these, but this is one of the books that is in the library. And just because it's not checked out, don't mean the kids aren't going in there and looking at it on their free time. In study hall, they still have access to this trash. And I beg you to say that this is not pornography. Page 60 of, one is this one, summer. Page 60, 2 young girls are walking out of a store and hear someone say, oh, okay, obviously, like when I say sex, I'm not including blowjobs. In the next image on one of these books, as you can see, the girl's being slapped on the rear end. It even talks about one of these 3 girls says blowjob on page 61. One of these 3 girls blowjobs, like they don't know what a blowjob is. The next image, it's showing pictures of these kids behind cars doing blowjobs. So how, pray tell, what is your definition of porn if that's not pornography? There's other books that go into detail of he slid his dick inside of me so far that my body elevated off the bed. Y'all have these experts. To me, that is pornographic material, as close as pornographic can go when it's not a picture taken by camera. Not all of these have illustrated pictures, but I want to show you, in your notebooks. I had a nice little speech planned out, but that went out the window. In your notebooks that I printed, The Handmaid's Tale. It is showing a female being held down by another female and raped by a man. These are pictures. They're illustrated pictures. But you tell me that's not obscene or pornographic? Come on, guys. Let's use some common sense about this. Let's let our kids be children and let the innocence stay as long as they are. This stuff is not our kids' shoulders are not meant to bear this stuff. And we have asked, as well as other people, that if you refuse to take the books off the shelf, start rating them like TV shows. You have TV shows that are rated. You have video games that are rated.
Next, we have Ms. Melissa Holland.
So I have 3 boys. My youngest is 6. I'm not going anywhere. But I don't appreciate telling parents that they shouldn't. If you don't like it, leave. That's not the best way to work with each other. So I did find this from an outside source. It was called Henderson County. That's where it came from, the Kite Runner. A parent asked me if we had it in Polk County. Was my child required to read it? And I said, no, he's getting ready to go into 6th. She goes, well, my kid's in 8th grade, getting ready to go into 9th. She's required to read it for Henderson County. Said, okay, well, I haven't read the book. So I read the book. I was shocked. That was back in August. Then I started doing a little research. It doesn't matter where the source comes from. I didn't want to find it here. I still don't want to find it. We are up to more books. It's more than 18. I will give an updated list to our principal to be challenged. I have 3 kids. I'm not worried about an agenda, a political. There is no political here. It's children. At the end of the day, I send my kids to be protected in a protected environment. I have great working relationships with all their teachers. I appreciate every single one of them. I start questioning things though, which a parent should. But I especially started questioning things when they got sent home from school. I had a little bit more time to start looking into stuff.
We took the time, please read the books. We give you the experts, read them yourself. The First Amendment does not cover this. There is a Supreme Court case on this, and you can pull them from the books. We are trying to have communication here. Just like ratings, my child cannot go in and buy a video game that is rated over a certain age. He has to have a parent or someone else to buy it for him. Just like a rated R movie, he can't go into it. Certain shows pop up for a reason. Oh, I need to change that. I don't want my children's watching that. We need to start reading books. I go in the public library, and some of these books are in the adult section for a reason. No one's saying you can't go to the public library. My child doesn't have a cell phone, but he does have a computer at school. Computer at school allowed him on to things he shouldn't have been on. And I had to talk with him about that, but there should also be more security on stuff at school. They should not be allowed on YouTube. He's allowed on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff. And I do know that we have to have more security with our computers. He's not allowed to bring home a computer from school, but he's allowed to sit in class and have it. Yes, our kids can access a whole bunch on those computers. So I ask you to take a look at at yourself.
Next, we have Jason Allen.
So you have these, you said they've been read, you've heard them before. I'm not gonna open it up and read it again because I can't unsee what's in it. My kids have cell phones, they take AP courses and recommended readings from the teachers, the comments that they make to my kids after I say I don't want them reading that stuff is unreal. Okay, I don't need a teacher bad mouthing, and my kids got a lot of good teachers, but there is one that badmouthed my daughter or badmouthed my wife and me. Okay, a while back, I did take it to the principal. And after I took it to the principal about the issue with the book, because she didn't like my perspective on the book and said that she's a Christian and she thinks it's okay. Well, I don't think it's okay as a parent. She turns around and makes comments to my daughter. So that's not right. Computers at school, kick them out. Simple, go back to a simple book. If you want to really take out the problem, I say take it back old school. And these things here, I've got friends, I've got my mother, that have all been in the school systems, working in the school districts, okay? The bluest eyes, I'm gonna call it out and I'm gonna paraphrase it just shortly because it's disgusting and I can't unsee it. It makes me wanna puke and it's pedophilia. So your pre-planned speech, I'm not trying to pick on you, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when it talks about a man giving a little girl a lollipop so he can play with her. Upper body, a girl, a child, not developed. It goes into further discussion than that. Did you read that? It's a simple question. Here's another issue again. I'm speaking and I feel like I'm talking to a wall. There should be some dialogue here. I'm not upset with you. I want some resolution to this. Parents shouldn't have to go through and read this garbage. Okay? There should be a rating system. And yeah, when we showed up to ask about this, we got a slew of people, of librarians saying, First Amendment, we're trying to ban and burn books. No, we're not. All we ask is to move them away from the school so they're not accessible to the children, or do a book rating. Something simple, something of common sense. That's all it is, okay? If parents want to promote some sort of sexuality at home, fine, so be it. That's their choice at home, okay? But a basic education at school, even one of my best friends in California said it should be more of an agnostic perspective than anything else, not promoting a feminist agenda, the non-toxic type. I'm sitting there trying to figure this out. Like, what does that got to do with anything? Why is a middle school child being taught that? Okay, where does that come from? And the globalist view, seriously? Okay, last I checked, it was America. And you know what? You can call me a nationalist or whatever you want, but we're Americans here. And sociology, my college classes, they put us in boxes, no different than CRT does or anything else. So the sociology that's getting carried on likes to backdoor stuff. And I did bring it to the attention before, where my kid, my youngest one, was participating. Yeah. Pick the be the weakest link. Couldn't believe it. The teacher did that. And you can kick me out over that one. Go for it.
Go, you're out, bye.
Okay?
There's some deputies in the hall.
Escort me out because that teacher said, now children, pick out which child is the one to most likely be killed in this classroom. Tell me what's being taught in the classrooms.
Mr. Green, is there any attorney-client privilege tonight?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Then I will be looking for a motion to go into closed session for purpose of discussing personnel. Motion, do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those nays? Motion carries 7-0.